Yo, what's going on, everybody? We are back with Sdawgsmmatalk. And when I tell y'all, we got a legend, we got one of the best refs in the game, one of the best human beings, and just a dope ass dude to come on and hop on the show and give me 40 minutes of his time today. I want y'all to welcome the motherfucking man, Marc Goddard. And how are we doing today, bro?
What's up, buddy? I'm all good, man. I'm all good.
Dude, I promise you, I'm doing better than you are just to have you on right now, bro. Marc, you're the fucking man. You are one of the main names in MMA when it talks about refereeing and just good human beings into the game right now. If I was a fucking fighter in the UFC and you came to wrap my hands, or not wrap my hands, I'm sorry, but you came in the back while I was getting my hand wrapped and gave me the fighter meetings, dude, I would know I'm in great hands.
That's very kind. It's nice when you get that interaction with the fighters too. It's a good place to be.
And speaking of fighters, Marc, I don't think a lot of people know this, but you were an MMA fighter yourself. So I kind of want to get into how you got started into MMA and what it was like for you in the beginning of your journey.
Yeah, like 25 years ago, a long time ago, when I went back training. I actually started back training traditional jiu-jitsu. Then when I moved house, um, that's when I started back training because my next door neighbor was a jiu-jitsu instructor. So it was just by chance. Then he knocked on the door one day, and then after that, like I said, from the turn of the millennium, I've been training ever since. I never stopped. I just kept on going. I was training in Birmingham, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. Then when jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu started to really take off in Europe, in Britain particularly, just after the millennium. Obviously, there was people before that, but around about 0203, that's when it started to explode. We were very fortunate in the UK because for jiu-jitsu, we had Hodger Gracie in London and Braulio where I was in Birmingham. We had Braulio Estima. So we literally then number one, number two in the world, arguably. Obviously, Hodges the GOAT,
Yeah.
but Braulio as well. Multiple time world champion, ADCC champion. We were spoilt for such a small country. We were spoilt beyond belief when it come to jiu-jitsu, and obviously the whole thing MMA started to explode, and bad, but you look at it now, 25 years later, here we are, and it literally was like that. I can sit down and remember 25 years ago like it was yesterday, and it seems like you blink, and then here we are in 2024. It's crazy, but a good crazy.
Great, crazy. And what was Birmingham, England like back then when MMA first started, Marc?
It's very small because obviously, like I said, people had started to realize about a lot of traditional martial artists. They got a bit cagey because obviously when Brazilian jiu-jitsu first started coming over to these shores, um, a lot of people skeptical, but genuine people who wanted to train and get better. It's funny because, like I said, from a traditional martial artist, and I remember wrestling as well, and then going to BJJ for the first time, like 22 years ago, 2002. So I think I know what I'm doing. I think, I can wrestle, I can grapple, and that. Then Emilio got a hold of me, and it's like, what the fuck? And then you realize that Brazilian Jiu Jitsu really was like a completely different art, even though obviously Jiu Jitsu and wrestling, there was quite a Nawaza ground fighting in our Jiu Jitsu, but nothing like it was in BJJ. And then, of course, it spawned and it grew exponentially. Schools and when I was first starting jiu-jitsu, you were lucky to find a purple belt in your home.
Wow.
You were lucky to find purple belts were like unicorns back then. And
Holy
then obviously,
shit.
like I said, things started to explode and it gathered momentum at a rapid pace. But like I said, you got to really credit Braulio and Hodger because they were the first two. But it was actually Hodger's father, Mauricio Gomez. He was over here in the late '90s, setting up. He travelled into Europe and he actually came to Birmingham of all places, not London, fucking Birmingham of all places, and he actually set it up there. And we had in Birmingham, unbeknownst to me, there was a couple of blue belts, two purple belts, like I said. And back then, being a purple belt in jiu-jitsu 22, 23 years ago was an amazing feat, especially for a British person, you know, a
Yeah.
non-Brazilian. And like I said, the MMA scene kind of exploded overnight, good and bad, because in the UK, a lot of people don't know, like, you can fucking do what you want, which is not necessarily good. There's not state regulation. There's no athletic commissions.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Wild West stuff that happens, but that's the same in any combat sport: kickboxing, Thai boxing, white collar, you know, unlicensed, bare knuckle. Every That's just the way it is in the UK. But there's been some amazing people doing amazing things for, like I said, over the past 20 years, and we're in a good place.
How old were you when you took your first fight?
Oh Jesus, as in 26 maybe,
Wow.
25 or 26.
No shit. What was that like? What did your family think? What were you thinking?
I'm 50 now. I'm 50 years old.
Mark, you're a young 50, baby. You're fucking pushing 36. Don't lie to the people.
But it must be, listen, I know what it is. It must be Celtic genetics, mate, and it might be a preservative. It's a preservative for me. I know a lot of people say I don't look 50. I fucking feel it sometimes, believe me. But yeah, like I said, so when I went, like, cut a long story short, turn of the
Yeah.
millennium, went back training, and like I said, 24, nearly 25 years later, I'm still here, and I've grown up, literally grew up with the MMA scene in the UK, and then in Europe, and then obviously when the UFC first came, to the UK in '02. They did a one-off show at the Albert Hall, and then they went away for years because obviously there was finances, etc. And it wasn't until the obviously everybody knows what happened with the Ultimate Fighter, and then in
Hmm.
particular when Michael Bisping went to win the Ultimate Fighter, he's the guy that kind of spearheaded. It was the perfect for them to hit the European market, starting with the UK. The flagship, you know, he was the guy who built it around, and then it just. I first started. So I've been refereeing MMA for 20 years.
Jesus.
I've been refereeing MMA for 20 years, and then I first started with the UFC in 2008. So I'm coming into 17 years with the UFC alone.
Wow.
So it's been a long time, and like I said, all that. And again, weirdly enough, the UFC that I did was in my hometown. It was in Birmingham. Bisping was the headline. He fought Chris Lieben, and that was in 2008. And like I said, 16 years later, been into 17 years. That's how long I've been with the UFC. Very fortunately, you know.
Mark, how did you transition from being a fighter to knowing you wanted to be a referee?
To say that again.
How did you transition from like when you were fighting and you stopped fighting? How did you transition from doing that to being a ref?
I thought you were going to ask me different questions. I'm only joking. I'll tell you why. It's a like everything in life. I believe the best things are by. I believe everything's laid out for you. I believe in fate.
Yeah.
So, cut a long story short, 2004, I was supposed to fight, and it was a friend of mine who was a gym owner, Stevie B, a legend guy in Birmingham, real, still a very close friend of mine. He was promoting a show September 2004. I was supposed to fight. I was headlining this show. I got injured and pulled out, so I couldn't. Then when I went to the event, pulled out. Stevie turned around to me and said, "Mark, I need you to ref." And I was like, "What the fuck? What?" Didn't have time to think about. Didn't have any time to think about it. Just jumped in and done it. And of course, everybody from the scene knew me, and that's exactly how it started. And then it just grew. And then for a while, I was I was still fighting and still that's why another little bit of thing is I was actually supposed to start with the UFC as a ref in 2007, so it would have been 17 going on 18 years, but because I was still competing, it was still a bit of a problem for them, which I understood. So we deferred it. It started 2008 with them. I said my first journey into being a ref was completely by accident. It was because somebody pulled out. My friend was putting on a show, and he asked me. He didn't ask me. He told me. He said, "Can you ref for me?" And I just jumped in, and the rest is history. And like I said, for me, That's how the best things happen in life.
Mark, that is fucking wild. How you started out like that to now refereeing some of the biggest fights like Gaethje Max, Alex Khalil Roundtree, thousands of more I can't even think of, and probably you could like thousands of fights you probably forgot about you
Thousands.
did. So when you when you get into the UFC, right? Early days,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and you've seen this whole thing just progress. Do you miss the old days or do you like the way it is now?
Yeah, of course. Look, nostalgia is a weird thing, right? I'll tell you what
Yeah.
nostalgia is. I wouldn't change a single thing, but nostalgia sometimes it's your mind's trick of letting you think things were better than what they were. Right? When you look,
Yeah.
everybody says when you look back at nostalgic thing, I wish I was younger. I wish it was this. I wish it was that. I've had some unbelievable memories and things that have happened over the world. Like I said, I wouldn't change a single thing. But we are now. Look, I mean, you look at how far the sport has gone, where we are, especially where the UFC is. Um, the UFC is the reason that people, because like if you follow a certain sport, i.e., MMA, you might know me. If you didn't, nobody have a fucking clue who I was, no interest, etc. That's all down to one. That's all down to one thing or one company, and that's the UFC.
Yeah.
And I can only be eternally grateful. They've taken me around the world and back again. Twice, doing what I love, and like I said, I just grew into it. But something else I'm going to about the refing. Another weird thing was, obviously, I've been refing for 20 years. So literally 2 weeks after I'd done this first stint as ref, Cage Warriors, you know Cage Warriors, right?
Yes,
Probably,
sir.
yeah, a legendary figure in UK MMA and in Europe around forever. I've actually been working for them longer than anyone. 20 years I've been with Cage Warriors. So they had to go a couple of weeks later, and the promoter, when he saw me ref at UK Storm, called me and said, "Will you come and ref Cage Warriors?" And I was like, "Fucking hell!" And I went to do that. And like I said, 20 years later, a lot of, just trying to surmise it, there's a lot of people in a lot of places. A lot of people, like, when they get to a certain level, they think, I've done it all myself. And yeah, I did do it myself, but not without the help of other people. Sometimes when I say luck, I mean sometimes it's being in the right place at the right time, and you need to be honest about. People are generally, you got to give a bit more thanks to these people, because without them, yes, I worked incredibly hard. I've got a million and one stories about standing my ground and walking out of bad shows and not doing this and not getting paid back in the day. But
Oh,
without the people doing the things, you can't you can't use that vehicle to get with what you get. I've got so many people to thank, and so many people that I owe, heartfelt that I owe, coverage too, because without them, I couldn't get on to doing what I was doing. It couldn't help me be who I went on to become, what I'm doing today, if that makes sense.
bro, that makes perfect sense. And then when you were speaking about traveling, what are some of the places that you've been that you were just so grateful to be at, or really just excited to be there, like that they've took you to go ref at?
It's probably easier to tell you where I haven't been.
Like-
Everywhere with the UFC, like I said, and with other promotions too. But again, it comes back to what I'm saying. All these other promotions around me over the years is because of the UFC. The UFC is the mantle, the platform for people to know who you are. And like I said, I've refereed in every, uh, Europe, Africa, Asia, North America, South America. I've been everywhere, and I'd still love to keep traveling. And like I said, I've been fortunate enough to have refereed in the most iconic arenas and places in the world. Brazil and Las Vegas, New York and London, Japan, and so I kind of said it was like a Thanos's glove. There's, there, was-
Yeah.
there was five stones, and then up until the only one was missing because MMA wasn't there was New York. That was the last stone in the glove, and obviously Madison Square Gardens, one of the most famous fighting arena in the world when you look at what's happened in that building. So, listen, man, I'm incredibly fortunate. uh, like I said, a little bit of lady luck, but
Yeah.
hard work, perseverance, and dedication. Don't. That's not luck, but the one thing I always will be. I'm so fucking even after so long. I am as thankful and grateful now as I was 20 years ago. Period.
Mark, and you can literally tell when you referee, you don't fuck around. You don't play no bullshit. You're dead serious in there. Did you learn that from anybody, or is that just your personality, man? Because you play no shit in there.
Here's the thing, man. It's so fucking funny because obviously the American audience sometimes like even the way like sometimes I do right for doing wrong. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah,
oh my god, did you? It must be the British accent because I tell
yeah,
you now, if you fucking really know, if you study this, listen to me sometimes
yeah.
talk, and then go and listen to some other refs. Way they talk, it's like the fucking bottom over the hood of a car.
No,
Like
that's real. That's real.
honestly, and look, and here's the thing: people go, no, people don't get it. It's like, look, number one, you're a referee, so you're a position of authority. Number two, it's a fucking fight, an actual
Yes,
fucking fist
yes,
fight. Number
yes.
three, I'm in an arena with 20,000 people screaming. So forgive me if I didn't tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, excuse me. Now I have to raise my fucking voice. I have to do my job. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, yeah.
it's just funny sometimes. And here's the stuff, man. Social media. There's not. I don't know any other patient. You know, if a doctor or anybody, once they finish their work, they go to social media for validation. The famous court of public opinion. Look,
Yeah.
social media is is a great thing. So I'm talking to you, right? You reached out to me, and I see that that's how I'm talking to you. In general, it's a great thing, but it can be a horrible place too. But what I've learned over the years is, like I said, because if you didn't learn it, you'd go fucking mad. You just
Yeah.
I'm the one doing my thing. I'm incredibly thankful. I share great things with great people all over the world. Concentrate on that. I can't want to answer people sometimes on social media, but it's just I always use the dog shit analogy. It's a very, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
about ignore negative. I'm a positive person by nature. I honestly am. I'm optimistic, and it's kind of like when you see all the negativity, you just got to keep walking. You just keep walking because, like, if I take my kids to the park for a picnic, I'm not going to put the blanket to the dog shit. I'm keep walking till I find somewhere that's clean and nice and is not polluted. Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the same. It's the same with social media. Just fucking keep because if you stay and start trying to clean up the dog shit, you're going to be there forever and a day. And that's just the way it is. I'm sorry that you don't get what I do. I'm sorry sometimes you don't like what I do. By definition, that's what a referee does. I'm going to sometimes please one side of the room and I'm going to piss off the other half. Get over it.
Get the fuck over it, folks. What I don't want to get over is, Mark, what is it like in the back with the fighters? Like when you're breaking down the rules, when they're getting their hands wrapped. Have you ever seen a fighter panic? And have you ever seen some fighters where you're like, this motherfucker is too calm for this?
Everyone's different. Obviously
Yeah.
I've saw some real fucking crazy weird shit over the years and all different on all different. I've saw fighters. I've actually witnessed fighters at the top level. I can tell. I've been there. I can tell. Sometimes it's so consuming, and I can all see. I can read it. I'm thinking, fucking, this maybe this guy's not in the right place. It's a shame. My heart goes. But generally at the highest level, and there's two things. Obviously, never be fooled by the cover of, because somebody on. And I've always said, a scared animal is the most dangerous animal. Sometimes, and then you'll see
Hey.
everyone's different. Some fighters have a very calm demeanor. They're very chilled. They hardly warm up, and they just roll around. And then you've got some guys that are super intense, and you just got to respect the fact that everybody's different. They get ready in a different way. They put themselves in a different psychological space. And when you get to see that so many different ways over the years, you've got to read the room as well. Because when you need to speak to a fighter, You got to make sure you don't want to interrupt them. You don't want to, fuck around with their warm up and their routine and stuff like that. So experience counts for a lot. You get to read things, see things, and understand things, and it helps you out.
On average, how many fights are you gonna like? Let's say there's a 12 fight card. Do you know how many
Uh-huh.
fights you're doing the day of, or is it just as soon as you get there? Hey, three fighters request you. We're gonna put you on three of these fights. Like, how does it go?
Typically, so for the UFC, it's one of the most common questions, and I was actually trying to answer it the other day. But again, humans being humans, they don't fucking read, they don't understand things. I was saying to people like, they go, "Do you know what fights you're wrestling?" 98% of the time, we don't. So what happens is we'll turn up at the commission will give you a envelope with the fight card, and it will tell you which fights you're doing. That's the first time we see, which is the best way, it's the easiest way, etc. Sometimes you'll see in advance, so in places like California or Nevada in particular, for title fights, you'll see a lot of the time the referee is known in advance. Why? It's because they have a commission meeting where they're selected and approved,
Oh,
maybe
damn.
10 days, 2 weeks before. That's it. And it's just because it's a formula that they do, it's the way they do
Yeah.
things. All the other fights, nobody knows. So you're going to turn up, same for the judges. Refs and judges will turn up, they'll be handed their assignments a couple of hours before the fight time. Go and talk to the fighters. Happy days.
Have you ever had? I mean, I saw a moment right here in the Apex, probably 6 months ago. Rosenstruck versus Gassiev. That's how you
Uh-huh.
pronounce it, the Russian heavyweight,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
the fight was over. Mark, we all knew the fight was over. He's in the corner, and you can see in his face he doesn't want to come back out. Coaches are speaking fucking Russian, and they're who knows what the fuck they're saying, and maybe they're trying to get him to come back out. You walked over to the coach and told him, "Do the right thing here." What is he saying? What
yeah.
is what is kind of like your spot in that situation, man? Especially when they don't fucking speak English, how hard that is for you to try to be lookout for the fighter, but also it's a fight, you know?
Well, again, look, the responsibility is there. Look, when a fighter, and again, it comes with experience. Like I can see things, I read things. People go, "Oh, you're." It's funny because when I was at training, and one of my friends at training, he's a good guy,
Yeah.
but it was after the Pahea and entry fight,
Yeah.
and I went back to training. He's like, "Man," he goes, "What a fight that was." I said, "Yeah, fucking amazing." And he goes, he said, "I think I could do your job." So I'm looking at him like, I turned my head like, "What?" He goes, "Well, you literally like," he goes, "You just stood there," and I was like, "Fucker." I just had to put it on him on the mat a bit. But no, look, sometimes the things like that, it's like that's how it appears to the outside world. But in that instance that you're talking about, Gassiev versus Struck, like you read the body, as you get to read the body language, you can see. Sometimes I can see a defeated fighter there just by reading their demeanor, their body. I could tell when he was in the corner, and I know his coach pretty well. I know him, Elder. He's a good guy, very experienced. Plus, the actual commissioner, the inspector, is Kazakh, so he spoke Russian.
Oh
So
shit.
when I was picking up some of the words he was saying, with no, and I was like, "What's happening?" And I went
Yeah.
over, and he told me, he goes, "This," and that's when I called Elder to the apron. I said, "Elder," I said, "Look, do the right thing. What's he saying?" And then when I turn around, I look at the fight, I tell, because here's the, everybody's got this thing about, of course, it's a fight. Bad things, unfortunately, they can happen in fights. People are going to get hurt. My job is to stop, if I can, is to prevent unnecessary damage. That's why when everybody, when they get on their high horse about early stopping, don't even start me off. Don't start me off. Sometimes there's like, if a guy's on a one-sided, if he's got one foot out the door, you don't always need a kill shot. You don't need a crumpled heap on the floor. You don't need somebody completely unconscious to say the fight's over. Sometimes little things like that, intricacies, and like I said, when a fighter, it's even more dangerous because if a fighter is mentally defeated rather than physically defeated, in which case he was at that point, You're sending him out to get hurt. That's all you're doing. You're sending him out for unnecessary damage and hurt. And we can't do that.
And this shit isn't boxing, Mark. They don't give a fuck. You can see a dude get his ass whooped 10-8, 3 rounds in a row, and they'll still send him out there to get slaughtered. And honestly, that's how, if I was a fighter, some of these dudes are different than me. Some of these dudes are like Justin Gaethje, where they literally, it's kill or be killed in there. But Mark, fuck that. If you can save me, fucking save me. And speaking on that Pereira versus Roundtree fight, I was going to ask you a basic ass question and say, who's the hardest guy you've ever been in there with? But Joe Rogan said that you told him he had ungodly power. So I'm assuming it's LX.
It's not. It's just. I tell you, mate, and I tell you when I first noticed it, and my close friends will tell you because like the other officials we speak and stuff, and I first noticed it when he fought Adesanya in New York, Madison
Oh,
Square. I was
really?
the ref, yeah,
Yes.
and it was like it sounds different. I can't
Mm,
explain it. He just sounds different, and
mm.
it's like I said, he's an imposing figure anyway, but a lot of fighters are, but when it just, I was saying to Joe, I was just like, man, because I mean that fight with Roundtree, amazing,
Oh,
amazing heart. Khalil put on an amazing show. He won the first 2 rounds. He brought it to him. He won everybody's heart, etc. What nothing but respect. But then obviously when Bahia, and Khalil dropped him in the second round as well. He was doing everything right, and then Bahia just kind of goes into another gear. And yeah, there's certain things in fighters. Sometimes there's certain attributes and things will happen in a fight, and it's like, fuck, what was that? And he just sounds different. I can't explain it. I don't know what it is, but he is he's an imposing figure for sure.
have you ever had a moment, Mark, where like when Bruce Buffer is doing the announcement and he goes, "It's time, championship, 5th round, last fight of the night." Do you ever get goosebumps now, Mark? Are you just used to this shit? Do you
Always,
look around like, what the fuck's happening?
always. How can I not?
Yeah,
How can I
yeah,
not?
that's what I'm
I,
saying.
I'm stood. Obviously, I'm in a different headspace, and like my friends will tell you, I'm outside the cage, like I'm by the steps. I can be fucking around with them, having fun, da 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 da, and literally 2 seconds later, as soon as I walk up
Damn.
those steps, it's like there's a different headspace. But of course, how can I not be? I'm stood. I get to watch the greatest fighters on earth performing the greatest fights on earth from fucking 6 feet away. How can I not be, like I said, it comes out, the emotion comes afterwards. At that time, I'm
Yeah.
in a complete, but of course, I am nothing but, I'm nothing but thankful. What an amazing place to be. But I will press upon this. I always said about a lot of people, like I said, the social media, the court of public opinion, they can do this, you know, a lot of people think they're a ref. A lot of people think they can ref. You know, everybody thinks they can fucking judge. A lot of people think they can ref. I can tell you now from coming experience. I'm actually, like I said, I'm in London. I'm just outside London because I'm doing my seminar, the Goddard MMA school this week, and I've got a judge seminar. And one of those parts of the refereeing practical is they have to referee a round of fighting in front of me. When you see the fear of God and the nerves that go into some of the referees coming through, because they don't, it's like anything in life, until you're put in that, and without being condescending, until you're put into that scenario, they've literally got no idea. And like I said, it's when you're in the T-Mobile Vegas, you in Brazil, you got 20,000 people. I don't know. Last week I was in Germany, 60 to 59,500 people in a stadium, fever pitch. It's the pressure is fucking incredible, but to me it's warmly addictive because I love
Yeah.
this sport. I've grown up with this sport and I thrive on that. I thrive on the expectation and I love having the responsibility of, and I tell you, mate, believe you me, it ain't for everyone. I see people at regional shows fall at the first hurdle because they just can't do it. And that's okay. But yeah, Twitter can't do it either.
Yeah. Mark, I got about 10 minutes left with you, bro. I don't want to take up too much of your day, but again, beyond thankful to have you on, bro, and thank you so much for your insight and just answering some of these questions. You've also been a part of some of the greatest fucking moments in combat sports history, and you've been fucking feats away, like Gaethje versus Max Holloway. I want to talk about this, Mark. So when Max points to the ground 10 seconds in your head, are you like, motherfucker, I need to get in close to this as I possibly can, just in case what happens happened?
Well, obviously, when the 10-second warning, it's part of the referee's mechanic. So when the 10-second warning goes, clapper, you close the distance anyway, particularly if the guys are throwing down, because you want to prevent an additional shot coming. It's unrealistic. Everybody thinks that two guys are going bam, 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 they hear a bell, and they just drop everything. Sometimes they do. 99% of the time they'll do that. But in an instance like that, and you're talking about, it's funny because I think it was Dana that said it, and he said, "What do you do?" He said, "I sell what the fuck moments."
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
me, without a shadow of a doubt, you know, the fight was great. It was a fantastic. I think it was a
Oh,
very good, nice fight. But keep the fight away from the moments. It's not like, fight of the year. It was a great fight, no two ways about it. But in terms of a singular moment, you're going to be hard pushed to ever beat that, because
dude.
it didn't happen in the first, second, or third round. It fucking happened in the last second of the last round at
And the guy's
UFC
winning.
at
The guy
UFC
that did it.
three. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just that, without a shadow of a doubt. If I was to pick a singular moment, um, a what the fuck moment in
Yeah.
20 years as a ref, that's it. And there isn't a close second.
Mark, not to fucking bring it down from there, but a year or two ago, I've always wondered, like, what would happen if somebody tried Marc Goddard or just any of these refs in the octagon? And I did see a video one day where a dude had a rear naked choke. He didn't let go. You try to get his ass off, and he kind of freaked the fuck out on you. What was going
Yeah,
through your head right there, Mark? And I'm fucking sorry to bring the vibes down. I just been wanting to ask
yeah,
this question since 2 minutes in.
that's cool, mate. He's just, obviously the guy was like 140 pounds as well. It's,
Yeah, yeah,
my job is just to stop the fight. And when he started getting animated, of course, I'm just keeping him at arm's length, and then he gripped my shirt, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. Obviously, if he started throwing punches, I'd have to do something different. But look, when guys, sometimes they're in a different headspace, so when you stop the fight and they're not entirely sure about it, it's just one of them things, man. It doesn't happen. It's a very rare occurrence. It happened. He got punished by the promotion, and move on to the next
yeah.
one. It is what it is. It was like a viral moment for everyone, but I bear no malice or no grudge.
I didn't even want to fucking bring it up, but I was about to ask what was one of your kind of, because that's got to be the best moment of your fucking career. And I was gonna say, have you ever had a fighter maybe put hands on you during a fight or something that just where you were like, the fuck is happening? And that's the only thing I could think of off the top of my head.
That's
But
that's the most. A few fighters have, like, they get upset and stuff like that, but no. Like I said, the guy was 5 foot whatever and
yeah,
I've got 100 pounds on him and this.
yeah,
So I'm just trying to restrain him and say, look, the fight's over. And it's funny because he got even. It was because of that, and then everything. Then when I disqualified him, he tried to come at me again. He tried to come at me again, but yeah, it's one of them things, man. It's just an incident. I'll write it in the book one day. I'm definitely
yeah.
going to write a book of memoirs, and it'll be in there.
Mark, couple more questions, bro, before I get you out of here. Have you ever done a fight or met a fighter where you were not starstruck, but you were kind of just like taken back and you were about to referee their fight?
No, not obviously.
Not
Again,
starstruck. My bad. That's a terrible word. My bad.
no. I know what you mean, though. Look, because in the
Okay. Okay.
UFC, because I was involved with the sport, yes, like I said, you get an appreciation for sure, a sense of awareness. I'm refereeing Anderson Silva in Brazil. I'm
Woo.
refereeing Jose Aldo in Brazil. I'm refereeing Vanderlei Silva in the Saitama in fucking Japan. All these, but you're there as a paid professional, so you don't. You know what I mean? That's the headspace I'm at. all the emotion and adulation and appreciation comes afterwards. And believe you me, there's a lot of it because, like I said,
Mm.
I've been in some amazing spots over the years, and I'm incredibly thankful for it.
Mark, you're the fucking man, and I appreciate the time you giving me, man. I got to know one quick thing. What is your relationship with the doctors? And when they tell you that a fight's over, is there any way you could overturn it and be like, wait, it's not over. It's not that bad of a cut. Let's try to make it happen. Or as soon as he says it's over, no matter what, that shit's over.
No, it's quite on the contrary. The referee is the sole arbiter. I decide if it's over or not the
Oh,
doctor.
really?
But what you do, and obviously there is some, like in California, for instance, there is some jurisdictions where the doctor holds the overriding power. That if he tells you it's over, but again, look, it comes. The referee remains the sole arbiter. So what you'll find, everything comes with experience. Okay, and look, here's the thing, a little a nugget, if you like, if I do say so myself. There's two things, actually two things that go for any job in my opinion, no matter what you do for a living. There's two attributes, there's two things you need. Number one is competency, okay, and that's the first thing. Competency is, do you understand what you're doing? You know, do you have the required knowledge to do this job? The second thing, arguably more important at times, is common sense, the ability to apply number one when it matters most. Okay, so when you have an instance of an interaction with a doctor, obviously they're the doctors. You know, I'm not a doctor. Obviously, I've saw more cuts and breaks than most people. But when you're dealing with a doctor, look, nobody wants a fight to end that way. Sometimes it's a disappointing ending, etc. But those doctors are, especially when you go to like places like Nevada and you know, the guys are tremendous. You know, they're so experienced. They're so, apart from being medical experts and professionals, they're so experienced with combat sports, and we have a great relationship. You know, the communication is key as well. So I know, and the doctor knows, if I'm bringing him in for advice, that's what I'm looking for. Doctor, you tell me something I'm not trained to, to see. We'll then have a conversation, and then I'll then make the call based upon what the doctor's telling me. Obviously, at the, like I said, with the lower levels, you can find, amateurs and stuff. You can find doctors that have no combat sports experience, and sometimes they want to stop a fight because the guy's got a bloody nose. You're not going to do that. But at the highest levels, you're working with expert doctors in their required fields. And like I said, so a lot of people don't understand. Yes, the referee will remain the sole arbiter, but we know if the doctor's coming in there showing concern and telling me something that I'm not medically qualified to go against, especially when if it's something superficial, like a cut that you can see, sometimes that's when you can override it. You can say, doctor, look, let's give it a little bit more time. But if it's anything that you can't see, when you're talking about closed, eye injuries and things that he thinks is a break or something like that, you're going to go with the advice of the doctor because it's common sense, it's safety first. Yes, it can be disappointing for people, but you're going to rely on the expert knowledge and the expert advice of the people that are there to do their job.
Mark, thank you so much for that insight. I literally never knew that. I just assumed when the doctor stepped in, and if he called it, that's it. No matter what happens, it's over. Uh, you're the fucking man. I would go ahead and say if you got any messages for people trying to learn how to be a ref, but if you didn't listen to that last 5 minutes, then you need to not fucking do this shit. Marc Goddard, School of Hard Knocks, baby. We're here for the fucking MMA fans and the MMA world. Mark, I appreciate you more than you know coming on, brother. I'm dead serious, beyond thankful and grateful for this 35 minutes, my man. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Mark.
Not a problem, mate. I hope you get to where you want to get to and just keep doing your thing.
Marc Goddard, you're the fucking man, folks. If you're not already, follow this man. We're out, folks.
Good man.